we're here today to talk about your new biography,
Yes.
Faith of a Child. You've lived a fruitful life, Patti. Long may it continue.
Amen.
I want to start at the beginning, though, because that's probably the best thing to do with somebody that's achieved as much as you have. How can I put this? You were born in a taxi? Is that right?
Yes, I was born in a taxi between two cities, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that journey, being born in a taxi, growing up as a young woman, young child in Africa, and bring us up to the point where you moved to the UK.
Oh, wow. Okay. I suppose I had what people would call a traumatic childhood. But it was a childhood steeped in love as well. The surrounding and the situations were traumatic, and the family was so close. I was seventh of 9 children, born seventh of 9 children, and my parents had, when I was about 2, my parents had terrible, terrible divorce. And then we were soon thrown into political upheaval because mom got married to a politician, a would-be politician, as we were fighting for our independence, in Nigeria. And the court case, I remember that again was traumatic. My parents' divorce involved guns. It was just, it was pretty drastic. And then we moved because obviously my parents were southern Nigeria. So in a sense, I'm an Igbo. Then we moved to Lagos, and my book actually opens with the day I was left at school at the age of 9, 10 by the lady who used to give me a lift to school. And I had to walk about 11 miles home. And on that day, you see how God actually works miracles in your life. I learned the lessons of life throughout the whole journey. It's quite incredible.
When you say left at school, what do you mean?
Well, she used to drive me, which is about 10, 12 miles to school, from Ikeja to Yaba in Lagos. And that day, I was being bullied at school, okay? Got into a fight. I mean, I'm not the type of person to fight, but the whole class wanted this to happen. And I just walked away from it. And the other bully just threw a pair of scissors at me and drew blood, kind of stuck in my back, okay? So the teacher came in all the commotion, and I was sent to be treated by the nurse, and she just put plaster on it. And I went back to the classroom. We had detention. We had to stay 5 minutes, literally after class, when everyone is gone. And I was panicked. When she said we could go, I picked up my bag, dashed for the car, and I knew she saw me, but she drove off. And I thought, okay, no money, no food. I walked. School finished at 1:30, didn't get home till about 8 in the evening.
Wow.
But it was such a lesson. It was such a lesson. I believe, because of that, I believe in guardian angels. Because if you can imagine a child walking in Lagos, that's not used to it, okay? The things I witnessed on the way have lived with me all my life.
Wow.
Vivid.
Can you share with some of those things, or?
Yes, I can. There's some were amusing. I remember seeing a girl my age, shorter because she was selling oranges, so probably towards her growth, okay? And I remember seeing it in the distance, and this man kind of just wanted to buy oranges, so he said, and she put her basin down, peeled a few oranges for him, and he sucked each one with relish, threw it away. And then for some reason, I think he decided he didn't like them, he wasn't going to pay for them. So she leapt across the basin, grabbed his crutch. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? She's so small. He could just fling her over his shoulders, but he couldn't. He was doubled up, okay? So that brought me to, because my mother was like, she was like a local counselor to everyone. She's like, you know, that aunt that everyone comes to for advice. So if a young man wants to marry a young girl, he would come and say, Mommy, would you look at her for me? Do you think she's, you know, likewise girls, likewise older women. But I heard these women talking about a woman who, they used to come and gather around my mother and they'd wait and they'd gossip and I'll sit in the corner and listen. But I couldn't believe they used to talk about this particular woman whose husband was so drunk and he'll come back and beat her up. But this day, she beat him up because he attacked the child. So I'm thinking, how can she? How did she do that? They said he was so much bigger than her. And so one of the ladies said, these are words of wisdom. She said, you see, when God created man and woman, he gave the man strength so he can protect the family. He gave the woman cunning so she can protect the child. Said, but gave the woman a man a weak point so she could control him in case he got out of hand. And I'm watching and I'm thinking, is this the weak point? Because he couldn't pick her up and throw her. So it was a good lesson, okay? The other one was a bit more nasty because I heard horrible noises. There were crowds. And curiosity, because I'm walking home. I don't know how far home is, okay? So everything attracted my attention. And I went through the crowd, kind of going through people and I could smell burning, and I thought it was a car on fire or something. He would just spend a few minutes. No, it was a young man set alight with tires on him for stealing. And I could hear that from the crowd. That was where a lesson I learned. Do not follow crowds. Never, in anything. Not in my life will I follow a crowd. Because people are evil in masses. The masses were evil. I see it today, okay? They will regurgitate things that they hear without even thinking about it, without using any common sense.
That's what the internet is, isn't it, really?
Precisely. That's it exactly. I could see it. So you see that lesson. I connect it to everything that comes in my life. So many things like that. I learned about courtship. That's really wonderful. That's wonderful. I learned that. That was amusing for me. But I learned about, courtship. I saw it on the way. So it was, that was the day. And then, when I got home, I learned one thing. My mother didn't say a word. I mean, obviously, she was just happy to see me back. Because she sent the driver looking for me. She was just happy to have me home. No grudges, nothing, not a word to the neighbor. Actually, a few years later, I went to pay my respects when I went back. Okay. Because my mother always taught us, what people do then is not what they're going to do today. Yeah, true. Okay, so,
So when did you come to the UK? And what was the motivation? What was the circumstance?
Good question. Like I said, I was born 7th of 9 children, brilliant children. A pilot, an aeronautic engineer, a pharmacist, an industrial chemist, name it, and me. Okay. A doctor. Oh boy, the list goes on. And myself. So I decided, Dad said I was going to be a lawyer because everybody else did science subjects. But Patti decided to do art subjects. So he said I had to be a lawyer. And I didn't want to be a lawyer. I thought, my disposition is such, I'll have a client. And if I know he's guilty, I'll just say to the judge, just lock him up, throw away the keys. Case done, okay? So I just said no. So I thought, I'm going to go into the convent, because I went to a convent school, I was in boarding school. So I joined the Order of the Holy Child of Jesus, the intention of being a nun. That didn't last very long, for Reverend Mother realized that I was...
How old was you at that point?
Well, I was just 15 and a half, going on 16. Mm-hmm. And Reverend Mother decided, no. Spoke to my parents and said, listen, maybe she needs to go away somewhere and decide. I had a sister studying in England, and a brother. My other brother was studying in Los Angeles, and I had another brother in Germany. So Mom decided she'd come to my sister, spend 3 months, decide what I want to do. And it was during those 3 months that I went to an audition, which I actually thought I was going to Madame Tussauds. Okay, so it looked like Madame Tussauds. It's Shaftesbury Theatre, it's round the corner, and there was a big head of hair. because Madame Tussauds used to have this logo, which was very much, it's like a rainbow color and the head. So I thought, oh, Madame Tussauds. So I just joined the queue. It turned out to be an audition. And about 2 hours later, I mean, it went round it was incredible. And it was for a show called Hair. I didn't know anything about it. So according to people who were at the audition, they said I walked in, they thought, we've got a right one here. Everybody else was dressed like hippies, okay, because they knew what the show was. And here was Patti, all dressed as if she was going for an interview at a bank, okay. So the director actually of the program, they did This Is Your Life some years later, and he recalled my audition. So she walked on stage, we went, oh, we've got a right one here. We said to her, are you a member of Equity? And she said, what's that? We all thought, oh, yes, definitely a comedian, okay? And then we said to her, what are you going to sing? And she said, I didn't come to sing. She said, that was it. She's come to an audition, but she didn't come to sing. She came for an audition for, a musical, and she has not come to sing. So, but the musical director who was on the piano said to me, okay, do you know any songs? I said, yes, of course. And he said, what song? I said, The Sound of Music. He said, that's it. We just thought, that's it. Good heavens, no. Wasn't even on the cards. I mean, I did shows at school, but it wasn't a career path. Do you know what I mean? You do plays, you play